Welcome to my kitchen. I'm Shelly, and we're gonna make I'm gonna make, who am I kidding? Some homemade granola today. And I make mine based off of the stovetop granola recipe that is on the Paper Chef website. I highly recommend it. It recommends making it all in one pot. And over time, I have discovered that I really like toasting the base pieces of the granola more. And so I've separated them and put them in the oven. I did put them all together in the oven and realized that some things toast faster. So using these modular sheet pans is really makes it really easy. So here I've just taken out my oats and I haven't stirred them yet. So you can see that they're a little bit darker on the top and the edges than they are throughout, but they're well toasted. So these started out very white, just like normal. These are what do you call them? A large flake. They're not steel cut because steel cut are still quite like almost like a kernel. These are rolled, so they're flattened out and they make a really nice granola, but they're not quick, so don't use quick for this. These are more hearty, there's more sustenance to them, and we love them. So those are toasted. I have basically changed the proportions a little bit and essentially tripled this recipe. This is my toasted coconut, and I have to say that as a child, I didn't really grow up with coconut. I didn't really like the flavor of it, and when I had toasted coconut, I think is when I really changed my opinion. So toasted coconut is really fragrant, and I love the addition of it. This is a sweetened coconut, so it burns quite quickly in the hot oven. So I like doing this one separately and just, stirring it frequently. So I'm gonna kind of put this together because in a second I'm gonna show you the rest of this. It's really easy to make your own granola, so I really encourage you to just follow along here. It's quick, but these are kind of the things that I like the most in mine, so sorry about that. All right. Now, these are toasted walnuts. They're the walnut halves. They're nice and fresh. They're not rancid, and they're toasted all the way through. So they just have so much more flavor. And again, so you can not toast them if you want. You can not toast any of this, and you'll get a much milder flavor. This just has so much more going on when you're eating it. It's really delicious. And again, you could choose to leave these in walnut halves, or you could chop them and kind of make them more, homogeneous all the way through. I would use the food chopper to chop these. I like the big chunks, but most people would probably prefer to chop those. And one of the other things, if you don't have a chopper, you can just twist them, just grab them and twist them, and they break up really easily. So just twist them in opposite directions, and it's a fast way to crumble up some walnuts rather quickly. So you could do some of them, half of them, whatever you like. Just kind of squishing them kind of breaks them. So the walnuts are one of my favorite parts, so I'm not going to do all of them. Okay, now let's get to the fun part. And we're going to set this aside. This pan's still a bit warm, so I'm just going to set it aside. And I'm going to bring over one of my biggest pots. Now, because I tripled the recipe, I'm using my biggest pot. And this is where we actually make the sugary part. And I'll teach you just a couple little things I learned the hard way so that you don't have to make these same mistakes. So it starts with honey or maple syrup. I'm using maple syrup today, and sugar and spices. So the spices that I'm using, I use more proportionally because I like it. You can see I have 3 kinds in here. So I have ginger, I have lots of cinnamon, and I also added some turmeric because of the health benefits of all of these. So, but here's the secret. Stir these together in your pot before you add the liquid, because some of these really like to float and make little clumps. And so you can break that up really easily in your pan by stirring it with the sugar before you add the liquid. And so then you have like this sugar and spice combination. And I'm just using the back of my mix-and scraper to flatten out any little clumps. And now I'm going to add the maple syrup and I'm going to turn the burner on. All right. And all we need to do is basically dissolve this sugar in more liquid sugar, basically, which is our maple syrup. We need a little bit of liquid to get it dissolving, melting, dissolving. I think that's the word. Excuse me. And then, but we do need enough sugar to crystallize it, which is going to make it stick together and stay in a crunchy, yummy granola chunk, as opposed to a not crunchy, soft, and you don't want porridge, and it's different than a muesli as well, which doesn't have that sugary crunch on it. So I'm just stirring this all in till it's all incorporated, and then I'm going to put some heat on it. I do want to make sure that my sugar dissolves. So just so if you've not played with sugar on the stovetop before, sugar is definitely got unique properties where you need the sugar to be able to, you need enough water that the sugar can kind of go right into the water and not go in crystalline, like sand crystals. So you want the whole mixture to crystallize, not just the sugar bits to be crystallized. So it needs to get all incorporated into the water before we take the temperature up and then make the whole mixture. Once we add the ingredients of our granola and we put it out and cool it, that's when it's going to firm up. So I can feel on the back of my mix-and scraper here that it's, I can only feel the bubbles now. I don't feel like the grit of the sugar. So I just want to bring it to a boil. So you can see it's starting to bubble kind of everywhere, but we're going to bring it, and I'm going to show you, right to a full boil, and then we're going to put the hot ingredients in, toss it. So watch, because I'm a visual learner. Maybe if you are too, this is helpful to you, and you'll feel more confident to make your own granola if you've not done that before. So toasting it like this, you could actually put it all together and toast it all in the oven. It takes a lot longer, it's a lot more work. So separating it and making this sugar syrup, if you will, maple syrup, and then toasting the base ingredients first, I find really a lot easier. So then the other thing that you might want to do is add dried fruit, like dried cherries, dried cranberries, if you like raisins. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh my. Hold on. Excuse me. Depending on your personal preference. So, you know, this is the great thing about making your own granola, is that some of the ingredients are expensive, some of them you don't like, so you make it the way you like it, which is so awesome. So I'm not going to put in any dried fruits. I like them, but not everyone in my family does. And so now that we are also making our own yogurt in the new multi-cooker on the yogurt setting, which is so easy and creamy and delicious. Again, you can put your own ingredients in it. Like, it's so flexible, and just knowing how to do it, kind of, if we can demystify it. You can see that this is starting to come to a nice rolling boil. So it's kind of just building. The bubbles are starting to break here. I'm going to wait for them to break throughout the entire pan before I turn this off. So I just really need it to get to that rolling boil, and that's the temperature that I'm going to get granola that's crunchy in the end. So it's almost there. It's a little piece here. Make sure it's all rolling boil. nice big bubbles. You can see that. Okay, I'm going to turn the burner off. It's starting to foam up. This is why I'm using a big pot. So watch this. We're going to now slide all that in there, and we're going to toss it. I'm going to turn the burner back on really low. I don't want to cook this, but I want it to stay warm while I'm tossing it, because as soon as it starts to cool, it starts to harden, and then it's harder to get everything coated. So you can see how I love this mix and scraper, by the way, because it gets right in there into the edges, to the corners. It takes the heat, but it doesn't scratch my pan. Okay, so you can see it's nice and clumpy, and now we need to cool it quickly. So I'm going to turn this. I have a pastry mat on my island, and I'm essentially going to dump this out. So watch this. So we're going to just dump this and scrape it. All out, and as this is cooling, it's starting to get nice and sticky. So I'll set this down, just put some hot soapy water in there, and then I'm just going to spread this out into kind of like a, as thin of a layer as I can. And as this cools, now the sugar crystals are going to start to get to work, and it will get nice and crunchy. And then I'm going to store it in a sealed container so that moisture does not get into it, and it doesn't go soft ever. And this will stay fresh in your cupboard for probably a month. I mean, ours never lasts that long, so I'm not sure what to tell you as far as length, how long it will last, but it's just gonna cool. So now once it's cool, and it'll probably take, depending on the temperature in your room, it will probably take 15-20 minutes to come to room temperature. And when you pick up, so right now when I pick this up, it's quite soft, and all of these kind of move. As it crystallizes, as it cools, it's going to get nice and crunchy, and I'm going to break it up into little crunchies and then put it in either basically in a sealed container. So I like to use the glass ones. I have different jars, whatever you have to store it in. And again, I tripled the recipe, but it's that easy to make. So I hope that you feel inspired and confident to make it for yourself now.